live.
We're ready for everybody to get on. I'm gonna say it's Angie and Renee.
It's Angie and Renee, but not Renee.
It is Angie and Renee.
It's
Oh my gosh. It's Angie and Renee, but we have a special guest, LaShawna.
Hey. I'm so used to being quiet.
I know.
I was like, do I speak or do I not?
Hey Facebook. Hey Instagram. Hey Facebook. Hey Facebook, it's Angie
And Renee.
You are not Renee.
Even during this time, God, we pray for favor because we know that you are able to do it. And He was with him. He pushed him in a stroller while he was running. He had him in a boat while he was swimming.
Amazing. They let me feel comfortable in speaking, and I'm so grateful for this platform.
Hey Facebook. Hey YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube. We are here in the house.
We are here. We had struggles, y'all.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we had struggles. Crazy. But guess what? We here now.
Here.
So let's get it popping. It's Angie.
And Renee.
Yeah, right. No, tonight, Renee, she was not able to join us. She's actually celebrating. Shout out to DJ. Happy birthday, nephew. So, so she was not able to join us this evening. So we have sitting in for us. Tell the people who you are.
Patrice, Coach Christie. Y'all gonna like me. Y'all better like me because they're not gonna invite me back to the show if you guys don't like me.
Oh goodness. Who couldn't like you? We love you. No, but we really do appreciate you coming and sitting in for Miss Renee, chatting with me this evening. So let's see. So we are here, and we always start with the wow factor. And so I was looking up some numbers because tonight we'll be talking about getting through past trauma, right? So we'll be talking about that. But I was looking up some numbers, and I just got one, and then I just stopped because I was just like, this is crazy. So I looked up suicides in Maryland. It is 657. That's the number that I got. 657 suicides.
Since when? Did it say since when?
I put in suicides for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I just clicked on Maryland and I stopped. Right. 657. And so, yeah, we need to talk about it.
It's not over yet. You know what I mean? The year is not over yet. And so much.
Right.
In terms of suicide. And it's still not enough light being shed on that, unfortunately.
It's not. And I mean, I think that, we need to be able to give people a safe space to be able to really talk about like what's going on with them for real. Mm-hmm. And being able to really, not be able to share what's going on without being looked down upon. So that's really what we want to talk about tonight, is to be able to, we have to talk about it, because a lot of times when we talk about things, it helps us to heal.
Right.
So it's kind of like, and they call it therapy, right? They
Yes.
call, just like when you're doing rehabilitation, you're doing therapy, you break your leg and, you have surgery and they say, okay, we want you to go to physical therapy.
Yeah.
We have to talk about mental therapy. And it's okay, so just like when you're doing your physical therapy and they tell you to do those exercises, we have to make sure that we're doing that mental and we're doing those exercises. So tell us who you are.
Me. I am a trauma support coach. I help women mainly who are going through traumatic experience or who have gone through traumatic experience to basically speak on it. That's the first goal for me, to get you to talk about it. I don't promote, what would you call that? I don't guarantee your healing is what I should say. I can't guarantee that. That is something that you would have to do yourself. You would have to decide that you want that healing. But what I can do is steer you in the right direction, right? As a coach. Full disclaimer, I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist. I am not a lawyer, not your teacher, your preacher, your doctor. I am a coach. That's what I am. I'm a coach. I help to assist you through your experience and to find a better version of you.
Well, amen. Well, look at there. Find a better version of you.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. And tell us why did you get into wanting to coach people through trauma?
Because I myself went through my own trauma. And at that time, I didn't have anyone to coach me through it. Right. And it took me going through my own steps, my own program. I went through my own steps to realize that my healing started when I opened my mouth to speak about it. Okay. And so I figured with what's happening in the world and from the various people that I've spoken to, many of which don't go to therapists. They don't talk to their doctors. They don't talk to their counselors, their parents. And even those who do have therapists, certain stories that are telling me they haven't told their therapist, which is shocking to me, right? And so I want to break that barrier. I want them to be able to at least come to me, speak about it, and then you take it to that therapist, right? Because both intertwined and working together will definitely bring out the best version of you. I don't just say, do coaching only or do therapy only. Definitely try to put the two together if you can at some point.
Amen. Okay. So I'm actually in a class now on Christian counseling.
Nice.
And one of the things that, like, the very first thing that we were talking about is to be able to create a safe space. Like, we have to have people that are going to trust us.
Yes.
Because if there's no trust, they're not going to open up. And that is, probably like the main reason why they did not open up to their therapist, or maybe the therapist didn't probe deep enough. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it is, you have to dig a little deeper, but you have to know how to be able to reach in there and to dig a little deeper. Yes.
So I'm glad you're actually doing that. As a Christian counselor, there's a lot of what people call church hurt.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
And so you tell your stories to pastors or to leaders in the church, and then come Sunday morning, you hear your story repeated on the pulpit. It kind of throws you off, right? You don't want to talk to anyone in the church anymore because you just know your business is going to be everywhere. Right. And unfortunately, it caused a lot of people to, one, steer away from the church completely,
right,
and two, to lose that trust in who is supposed to be, as Christians, our safe space. And so how do we bring that back, right? Mm-hmm. How do we create back what is supposed to be the safe space? And that would be through individuals like you.
Yes, well, I'm trying. Yes. So, and we have to, and I think it's important on both parts, like for the person who has been hurt and who's going through these things, that they need to pray and ask God for guidance and who can I talk to, because we can't talk to anybody. And a lot of times we're at one end of the spectrum or the other. So you have those who will absolutely not talk to anybody, and they end up imploding. So because they don't have a place to release it.
Yeah.
And then you have others who continue to be in this cycle of hurt, because here they are, they're talking about it, they're telling everybody everything. And so they're just like, I want to find somewhere to put this. Yeah. But you're putting it in the wrong place, so the cycle continues.
Yes, and that's definitely true for a lot of people, especially now, right? Even though we're all at home, and a lot of people can't cope with it, and so you find more stories on Facebook. Right. You find more people trying to spill their life on Facebook, and I did it too at one point, and that's how I got my story out. So I'm not against it, but you could see that that's one of the cries for help. Right, that they're putting their story out there continuously, and some people are looking at it as if it's just a joke or it's just a post, or they're looking for attention, when in fact they're looking for someone to help them to release that. Right, some of them are looking for that validation to say, you know what, it's okay. Right, going through it too. Right, they're trying to find their community where they have that safe space, and unfortunately, that was the best way that they can do it.
Yeah. I do. I think that we have to be very mindful. And if you're in that, what am I trying to say? If you're in that field, right, and you see things like that, you pray about, should I reach out to this person? Should I, you see those little things, and it could very well be as to where it can just be an encouraging word and leave it at that, you know. And it's important for us to lift each other up through these difficult times.
Yeah. Plant the seeds, right?
Exactly.
I've been in a few people's inboxes because I've seen the cry for help. And I go in the inboxes and, hey, reach out if you need, blah, 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 but they never do. And you can't force it, right? Because they're ready to deal with what they're going through. All you can do is plant that seed.
Yeah, well, and what's the sad thing too is that some people, they feel like that's the norm because that's what they saw before. You know what I'm saying? So they saw their mother go through it, and their mother saw their mother go through it, or it could be the father. You know what I'm saying? So that's all that they've seen. So they're thinking, oh, this is normal. And it's unfortunate, because a lot of times when we go through things, we're either going to totally go to the opposite, which could be good or bad, or we're going to do the exact same thing because we don't know how to break the cycle.
Our normal is normal until we get in a place that shows us what's better. And then we realize that, you know what, that's not normal. That's not good here. What I'm going through is actually not okay. And then we can start working on that. So until you change your environment, most times you will never understand that what you're going through is not normal.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people, and I've even said it too. What is normal? Like, what is that? What is normal? But it goes back to the saying of, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
So, if you've never been exposed to something else, you're thinking that that's it. If you've never been exposed to Frosted Flakes, you're going to always think that all you have is cornflakes.
With extra sugar.
With no sugar. You see what I'm saying? Oh, they have the sugar. They have cereal with sugar. Oh, wait a minute. So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that they have marshmallows in cereal too? If you ain't had Lucky Charms, you don't know.
Got to be exposed to new experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yep, get out there. And I don't think outside the box. Throw that box away.
Well,
Stop letting things hold you. There's no barriers. There's
no.
no barriers. Take away the barriers. All right, so let's see. We have I have a few things that I wanted to ask you. And people in the chat, you can chime in too. So, there is no hope once you have gone through a traumatic experience. So, do you think there's hope after you've gone through a traumatic experience? What y'all think in the chat?
I want to see what they think first. I want to see what y'all think.
I don't know. Somebody said, oh, I don't know. Nope. Oh, yes. They say yes, there's hope. Yeah.
So yes,
absolutely.
I am hope. I am hope after trauma, right?
Yeah.
And I had to find my own hope. Again, once you're in that dark place, that dark situation, that time in your life that you're just ashamed for the world to see or to know, you feel like it's over, like it's done. You're sitting in the dark. You can't see your way out. You can't see your way out. And that's what it is for many people. They can't see their way out of their situation. And so sometimes you have to come in as that third person, that third party to shine that light. They may not go towards it right away, but just point them in the direction to say, you know what, it's over there. And whenever you're ready, just go towards it. There's always hope.
Right. Indeed. Mm-hmm. There is. I do believe, yes, there's always hope. Always. And we just have to be open to accept it.
Yes.
You know, and don't think that, and I think that too, a lot of people get it wrong because they think that that it's going to be like from one day to the next that you're just going to be free. You know, or yeah, today I was hurt and tomorrow I'm going to be completely healed. I'll never think about it again. No, there's going to be times that you're going to constantly have to speak that hope to yourself, that you're going to have to actually, you know, find different ways of how to cope through these things, because there's stuff that has happened to me years ago. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's when I know that there's something greater that's about to happen. Yeah. Because there'd be some super stupid stuff that's coming up and I'm like, where did that even come from? Like, I've forgotten it. You know, I always tell everybody, I know, you know, some people tease me about not being able to remember certain things, but I believe that's a gift from God, that he's allowed me to have the spirit of forgiveness in most cases, because, and then there's stuff I forget. You know what I'm saying? So people are like, yeah, I can forgive, but I'll never forget. There's so many things that I'm like, thank you, Lord. I forgot it. And then it'll come up and you know who that is.
It could be that it was forgotten. It also could be that you blocked it.
But
you didn't want to deal with it.
I could have blocked it. I could have blocked it.
You blocked it. You're like, I didn't deal with that. I blocked that. And so I don't want to remember that. But if you sit down, and that's why I said it helps when you have coaches and medical professionals, because if you were to sit down with a medical professional and they start to chip away at that past, what you forgot would come back up.
Right.
You forget, you just buried it very, very deep.
Well, yes, I think now I do think that yes, there are some things that we bury, right? Mm-hmm. Because we just want to block them out. We don't want to remember those things anymore. And those are things now when that subconsciously is hindering us from growing, right? Yeah. Or has hindered us from being able to live free, then yes, those things need to be dug up.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's something that we said that we have forgiven, those things, to me, they don't need to be brought up anymore. What if God, the things that he's forgiven me for, he keeps throwing them in my face? That's not right. You know what I'm saying? And I know I'm not God. But every day, you know, it is I live to want to be more like him.
Right.
So there's some things that, yes, I want to forget, and I'm grateful that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody did me something wrong. I'm glad I forgot it.
Good.
But like I said, if it's something that's hindering me from growing, yes,
Mhm.
that things needs to be dug up from the root.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely will come back. And I don't want anyone confusing that I forget with it not actually coming back up, because it will definitely come back up in your thoughts and in your mind at some given point in your life. But when you have dealt with it already, you're easily able to just move past it without having it to affect you again negatively like it did before in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, a lot of the stuff that will come up from my past are things that I've done to myself.
Normally. Yeah. And we try to blame others. We blame others until there's no one else to blame. And then
Oh, of course. Of course. Of course. Of course.
Yeah. I've had a few people to tell me that they never had any kind of traumatic experience, and their action says otherwise.
Right.
Your action says otherwise. You can see through your behavior, whether it's obsessive control or obsessive protection, like you're overprotective over your possessions and so forth. There's something behind that. There's definitely something behind that. And we tend to not want to say it is, because we still have that stigma behind going through trauma. And we associate trauma with just sexual abuse or physical abuse, when it can also be emotional. It can also be seeds that were planted, words that were planted in your head when you were younger, or something that happened, an event that happened that doesn't seem big, but it affected you in a way where it has that negative impact in your mind. And so now you're forced to have these excessive behaviors, and you don't think it's trauma.
I agree with that. And I was actually going to say exactly that, is that some people don't think that what is, they don't know what trauma really is. Right. And they think, oh, well, nobody beat me down. Nobody, or they did, but it wasn't that bad. It was just that one time. Or somebody, and yes, it is true that yes, somebody else might be going through something worse than you. You try to minimize it, or you've allowed other people to minimize it. And see, that's a problem that I have, is that when other people try to minimize what it is that you're going through, you can't tell me that that wasn't traumatic for me. You can't tell me just because, oh, well, yeah, I dealt with that before. Okay. But this is how it's affected me. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's so wrong for people to minimize what other people have gone through, because what might be big for me might not be big for you, but it's big for me.
Absolutely.
And we need to respect that. Where's the compassion?
In 2020, I'm joking.
You say not in 2021. Right.
Compassion is, you want to know when compassion really comes in play? Compassion comes in play in near-death experiences, when they see you're about to kick the bucket and they're not going to have a chance to speak to you ever again, or to act like they don't want to speak to you ever again. Then compassion comes in. Compassion also comes in between November and January 1st. Okay. The entire world is very compassionate, and we're now thinking of everyone else except ourselves, because we're in this giving mode. We're in this doing mode for others. We're ready to serve. But come January 2nd,
right, it's all about
all of it is out the door.
Yeah. Because most of the time when you make your New Year's resolution, what is it about? Yourself. What it is that you're going to do for yourself. So yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this, and this is for you and for our viewers. Personal trauma does not affect others. What say you? Do you think personal trauma affects others? Do you think so? I don't see anything in the chat. So what do you say?
Personal trauma. She said yes.
The people around you as well. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does. It absolutely affects those that are around you, especially if you don't deal with it.
Right.
If you deal with it, then you're able to cope and you're able to understand it better and know how to maneuver it away from others, right? But when you don't deal with it, it just comes out in so many different forms. It could be anger. Again, it could be control. It could be fear. It could be lack of sex. I talked about that before. I know I did somewhere, where if you have been sexually abused and for me, I remember it was a time when I went through my sexual abuse ordeal, and one of my relationship, my significant other would come in and he would rub his hand across my back at night, and it triggered me. It triggered me because that was the same thing that my abuser did. He would come from work, come into my room at night, rub his hand across my various parts of my body. And once my significant other did that, it threw me off completely. Like, okay, now you're not getting any, right? You don't want to, unfortunately, have sex at that point, but it then became my issue. Right? It became my issue because the abuse already happened. It's not happening right now. I had to deal with it. And so we tend to keep trying to relive it. It's not your responsibility. You got to move forward, right? You got to find a way to move forward so that you can live in your best life. So that if it's that affects you, now you can have sex without no problems, right? Right. So unfortunately, many people don't realize that, and they don't talk about it. And that's a big issue. They don't communicate with their spouse. This is what's happened to me, and this is what's going to trigger me. And so therefore, I don't want you to do these things, or let's talk about how we're going to work through it so that when it does come to matters of sex, there's not a blockage. There's not an issue, that we can kind of move forward like it's supposed to be and enjoy it like we're supposed to.
Right. I absolutely agree. I mean, that's why it's so important that you do communicate with those that are around you.
Yes.
Especially you're married. You need to be able to, share those things with your spouse. This is a trigger for me. And that's one of the biggest issues that we have in marriage. Everybody loves the wedding. They want to get married. They love the dress. They love the wedding, the reception, all of that. But things don't really get popping until after you said I do, right? And then, but hopefully before all of that has happened, you were able to express these things to your spouse. Now I'm not saying like on the second date you'd be like, this is what happened to me and this is a trigger, whatever. But when you get to the point of, you're ready to get married, I'm a big on premarital counseling. You need to go and sit down and talk to some people, talk to somebody that's going to be able to pull certain things out of you. Now you have to be honest in that, right? Because you don't want to be like, oh, well, I don't want to say everything because I don't want to lose them. You're going to lose them or her later if you're not up front in the beginning. So, those are things that we should be talking about. Now, I know that could be a very hard thing to discuss. I've been sexually abused. And, so it's like you're just there and you're putting everything out and you're just exposing yourself. I know that can be a very hard thing to do, but it's something that's very necessary because guess what? It's going to come up later. So let's talk about how can we prevent from getting to that as to where you're like, I'm totally shutting it down. I've mentally and emotionally I've checked out. And now, like you said, it becomes a you problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he's looking at, he's like, well, what's wrong with you?
Wrong. Yep.
What did I do wrong? You know, so y'all aren't clicking. You need to be able to express that. So especially with your spouse and your people that are around you, your circle, you know, so those who are close to you, you say that, and if it's your friend, now I'm not saying I'm just gonna meet somebody today and then tomorrow I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna tell you all my business. Well, I wrote a book about my business, so everybody know my business. But you know, that's it. Now I didn't put everything in this book. So you know, but there are some things that, you know.
You know, I find that we should talk to our close friends and families, but oftentimes it's the close friends and families that are victim shaming, right?
Oh
And
my gosh, yes.
it's the close friends and families that are still taking what you're taught them in secrets and telling the world when you did not intend for it to go to the world. And so therefore, it's easier for you to talk to a stranger about your business than it is for you to actually talk to a friend. And so what I would say is just find someone that you're comfortable with. It doesn't necessarily have to be friends and family, but someone who you're comfortable sharing it with. That way you're getting it off your chest. And yes, if you are married, before you get married, you're going to have to talk about it some way, somehow. But as the spouse who is listening to the story, have that compassion to listen and not try to advise, right? Just listen and then find ways that you're going to work with it together instead of saying, okay, this is what you should do, or this is what's happened to you. And you don't have to do all of that.
No.
All you have to do is listen, right? But at the same time, this goes for men and women, because men get abused as well. And we often don't talk about that. And it can also be sexual abuse. And so it could also be something that you as women do that's going to trigger him while in that act as well. And so you have to talk about these very, very important topics of sex, especially when you are getting ready to be married.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. Yeah. You need to put on the table. And yes, the other, girl, I'm so glad you said that when you said don't give advice.
Yeah, don't give advice. We like to give advice and we like to compare. You know, when I went through it, this is how I did it, or when I did this and this and this, and sometimes no one cares. If you really want to talk about it, they don't care. They just want to know that you heard the story and they got it off their chest. That's all you need to do. Be a listening ear at that moment.
And it's important to say, are you asking me to listen, or are you asking me for my advice?
Right.
You know, let them get it off their chest. Be quiet. Don't interrupt. And at the end, you know, are you asking for my advice? And like sometimes with my daughters, and I had to really get myself together because there were times that, you know, they would want to share. And as a mom, I wanted to give them advice. And they're like, I just wanted to be able to let it off.
Yeah.
And here you are. And so I've started it, you know, they're talking and I'm like, did you want advice? Did you want my input, or am I just listening? Right. So now I make sure to do that. So
that's a good suggestion, because I believe a lot of parents we do that. We jump in parent mode. Like, you come with a problem, now I have to fix it. Here's how you fix it. You know, and sometimes our children just want us to hear them. They just want to have a conversation because maybe they feel like they're not being heard. Right? They're not being heard at home. They're not being heard at school. They just want someone to listen to them. And I find I was in that position too, where mine would come to me and I'm like, okay, I'm busy. Okay. What you need? And I'm like going ahead and I'm giving the advice before they even get the question out.
Right.
And mostly because I know what they're coming for, but it still doesn't matter, right? I still should have just sat there, listened, and said, you know what, I got it. I hear you. Now, how do you want me to approach this? Right? Just as you suggested. So yeah, very good advice.
Yeah. And we also, starting from when they're younger, we need to be able to teach them how to do it on their own. Well,
Yes.
what do you think should happen? Like, well, what do you think should happen, or what is the result that you're looking for out of this?
Mhm.
Instead of trying to really jump in there and to do it for them all the time. If we do it for them all the time, they're not going to know how to handle these situations.
Correct.
You know, so
And then that becomes another trauma later in their life.
come
When
on now.
and their spouse is trying to not to do certain things, and they're like, well, my mama did everything for me.
Exactly.
And now it's a
Exactly.
problem. It's a
Right.
problem.
Yeah, they can't think for themselves. You know, they always have to they're looking for somebody else to tell them how to maneuver through life, or how to deal with this problem, or how they should feel.
Yes.
You know, because a lot of times people put their feelings on their children, you
Yes.
know, or on people that are around them. That's not fair. That's not fair. What makes you really, really mad might not even make me mad at all. Because I'm like, I'm not going to, it could be because to me, it's not that big of a deal. Now you shouldn't say that. You be like, you do it, it's no big deal to me. Okay, well, that's to you, but I think that we need to, I can't stand it. I know I say all the time, the people who say, I just keep it real, I keep it 100, just keep it 100 shut, because you have to say everything that's on your mind. You don't have to say everything.
Yeah.
You don't, know.
It could also be a lot of other things. They want to say all these things that's on their mind because they themselves haven't been heard, right?
Well,
so they want to be heard. Unfortunately, words hurt more than anything else. And as much as you want to be heard, you're spitting words and you're not listening. You're not paying attention to the words that are actually coming out your mouth and being planted into these children or into your significant other. And you're creating a damage that's just slowly chipping away. And at some point, it just explodes.
Yes, it does. It really does. And you have to set boundaries. You know, it's so important that we set boundaries on both sides.
Absolutely.
Like, I have to set boundaries of allowing people to get into my space, right? No, you can't talk to me that way. No, you can't deal with me that way. No, you can't do this around me. And I also have to set boundaries with myself to say, Angela, no, you can't chop them in the throat just because you're stupid. You can't do that. Like, you can't just say everything that you're thinking. That's we have to set boundaries for ourselves. And a lot of times when we hear setting boundaries, it's about what's coming in. We also have to set boundaries of what's going out.
Absolutely.
You can't say everything that you feel.
It's like you're reading my mind. That was the next thing I wanted to talk about, emotional boundaries.
Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Just you got to protect your peace. Period.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who or what. Protect your peace. Change your environment if you have to. Change the circle that's around you if you have to. She played too much.
Yes, she do. Yes, when keeping it 100 goes wrong. That's right. It's important to speak like.
Anyways, you have to protect your energy. Okay. Protect your energy, protect your peace, because there's so much negativity and negative people that are around you that can definitely affect your energy. Protect your energy.
Yes.
You have the option to do so. You can. Who did I tell the other day? I was on Clubhouse the other day, and they were asking me about something in a matter of self-care. And I said, well, my self-care is I stay on the phone with people 5 minutes. You get cut off at a certain time. If this conversation is not about you sharing a personal story that I know you just want to listen in ear for, or if it's not about business, like you want to sign up for a program or something, then you get 5 minutes. That's it. And if it becomes negative, you're getting cut off before the time, because at the end of the day, my peace matters. At the end of the day, my time matters. And you don't get to interject on that because you have no one else to talk to. Right. Gossip. And that's where a lot of us, we lose time and we lose progress in our life because we waste so much time trying to talk to others on the phone. What are we talking about?
Right.
Talking about the same thing is being regurgitated over and over again in different ways. For what reason? Right? You're wasting time and now you're stagnant. You're sitting here for 2-3 hours. You did nothing today. You're not productive because you decided to have a conversation, speaking to people who some don't their situation at the time doesn't matter. And it's unfortunate to say that, but it's true. You know, they're calling you about something that really, really, truly doesn't matter. But if you don't take that responsibility to say, hey, I can't speak on that right now, maybe send it in a text instead. I'm doing something else at the time that's taking up my time and I cannot share that with you, then you're going to put them into your space. You're going to lose that positive energy. You're going to drain you and your energy with their issues because they themselves didn't take the time to deal with their problems that they're going through.
Come on now. Yep. That's what Lakeisha just said. Some people are draining, especially family.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of times family, we feel obligated because they're family, right? And they'll take advantage. In our family, they don't have those boundaries. But even with your family, sometimes, especially with your family, you have to set those clear boundaries. I love you. Oh, how I love you. But right now, I don't have it to give to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I can't do this right now. And we don't have to do it in a nasty way.
Right.
We don't have to do it in, as to where we're just like, just going off on them. And because, and it's so important now we want to, and sometimes they're not going to understand, especially if they are, if they're not living for Christ, right? And they're going in a whole different direction. And here you are, you trying to be the hands and the feet of Jesus. You trying to walk right? And here they come.
Distraction.
Oh my gosh, what a distraction. And, then they want to, sometimes, and the sad thing is that sometimes it'll be the ones that are throwing scripture. It'll be the ones that are talking about, oh, we need to listen. I love you, but I'm not doing this today. I don't have it in me today, right now. I can't, I love you. Let's talk next week. Let's talk next week. Next week. I can't do
in a better mindset to speak to you.
Yeah. I mean, and it's true. Stop trying to hide exactly like how it is that you're feeling at the moment. I'm not having a good day. Right. And if I'm not having a good day, I make sure to tell the people that I'm going to be close to that day. I have even went to work and I've told my boss, I am not having a great day. So I'm still going to do my work.
That brings up another point, though.
But I'm going to my office.
When some families hear that, and some friends hear that, because it's not just family or friends hear that, I can't deal with that today. Check in with me another time. They become offended. But just as your peace is your responsibility, so is your offense, right? It's your responsibility to be offended.
Yes.
You have to be offended. No. You don't have to be offended. You chose to be offended. And then you need to kind of go back and figure out, well, why did that offend me? What was it about that offended me? And how can I move past that? So you don't have to be offended. Move on.
Right.
Your own way to protect your own peace at this point.
Listen, because if you know what I know, just leave me alone for right now, because it might get ugly. And then I'm going to be even more sad. Because now I done screamed on you. I asked you nicely. And guess what? What does it say? If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive.
Yes.
I don't need that. No, it's all about I'm going to live a nice, peaceful life. And I'm going to do it with you or without you. You understand or you don't. I'm sorry.
Question for you.
Yes.
So in regards to trauma and coping with trauma, what's the hardest part for you?
Coping with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
What is the hardest part for me? Well, I'm going to tell you the hardest part for me was really was even saying that, even just saying it, that I had dealt with something that was traumatic. It was hard for me to say it. And you know, you feel like, okay, you know, I brought it up before. I went through your program. And you know how hard it was for me to and I was probably the one that you said, yeah, they said that they never went through trauma. I was just like, yeah, well, you know, I mean, I don't know that it's, and again, what did I do? I downplayed it. I was like, well, you know, I mean, it bothers me, but I don't think that it's really traumatic. But it was, because it affected how I lived. It affected all of my relationships. I trusted nobody. Nobody. I trust nobody. Even if I could see you, you know how some people say, I don't trust them as far as I can see them. Even if I could see you, I didn't trust you. You know, it was hard for me to be able to let my guard down with anybody. So it was traumatic to me, you know, but at first, and that was the hardest part of dealing with it. And for many years, like I said, I was like, yeah, it bothers me. You know, it was something that happened in my life, but until we actually sat down and started to dig deep, that was it. So I think the first step to recovery, or the first step to healing, is really talking about it and taking, and I don't want to say taking ownership, but acknowledging it. Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you said that. I would have never, ever told anybody flat out that you was a client of mine, because that's not my responsibility to do.
Oh, no. I know you wouldn't have said that.
Oh,
no, that you said that I was a client.
That you said it.
No, but I said it when you said, I had somebody say.
Oh, trust me, that's the normal clients, but it wasn't even a client. It's just a behavior that was noticed, and the individual said, you know, try to throw it up that not everyone goes through trauma. And I don't believe that. We all have different traumas, various stages of our life. It may not be as elevated as others, or as what the world may think is important, because the world, we do downplay a lot of traumas. So no, it wasn't you. But, but while we're on that topic, what was the biggest highlight for you in the program?
The biggest highlight in the program was really just knowing that, just really being able to have a safe space to really talk about it and to work through it, you know. And it was like it was kind of like peeling an onion. You know what I'm saying? Where there's so many layers, and just really peeling back the different layers to expose those things. And then as you expose, to get rid of. So it was really like, you know, digging deep and being able to get to the root of it. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, okay, just cut down the tree, but tree starts to grow back, or, you know, cut down the weed, but we didn't dig it up.
Yeah.
It's coming back.
Yep. So you're talking about digging. So we are what we'll call spiritual soils. Let's use that analogy, right?
Okay.
Spiritual soils, and we have seeds that have been planted within us over the years, from birth till now, right? Mm-hmm. For me, with my children, when I was pregnant, I started planting seeds. I would read to them. I had like the Mozart, all those classical.
Right. I remember.
You know, listening to all of that. Like, I've done that because they say, oh, it's going to make them more intelligent. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, well, I want smart kids, you know. So I started planting these seeds from birth. But in life, we have different seeds that are planted within us, whether from our parents, friends, teachers, counselors, constantly planting seeds. And some of these seeds are not positive seeds.
True.
And they start to become deeply rooted because these seeds are sprouting, they're growing, right? But at the end of the day, it can be rooted, right? It can be rooted and taken out. And the good thing is we are soil, right? And so because we are soil, you can always plant something else in there. So
Right.
plant positivity.
Yeah.
Find people that are going to uplift you. Find your environment. Find your safe space, your tribe, whatever you want to call it. Find whatever positive note, positive energy,
Right.
positive people that's going to make you a new person, that's going to birth a tree that's fruitful, that's now shines a bigger light on your life than what you have in that dark past from that dark seed.
Amen. That's right. That's right. I have at work, I have a wall, and the way that my desk is set up, my desk, it like I have an L shape. And so part of it is up against the wall. And so that whole wall, what I've done is I've printed out like different positive quotes. And so, there's some days when I'm having that hard day, and I'll go and I'll just start reading. And then when, people come in the office and they're like, oh, wow, I love that. It really, it sets the tone,
Yeah.
So it's for us to set the tone. And like, we have to surround ourselves with positive things,
Yes. And people.
Yes, definitely with positive people. And there's going to be some times in some situations where you're not able to get away from those from those negative people. You may be in a situation, it could be as to where you in your family, you have negative people in your family. That doesn't mean that, or a negative person in your family, that doesn't mean that you can totally disconnect.
Right.
We're the light. So we go in and we shed, and we spread the light. Yes. Right. And so sometimes it's going to take a little more wattage than others. Right. Yes. We got to shine a little brighter. But it's for us, that doesn't mean that we should always remove ourselves from around from negative people. Right. We have to let our positivity be stronger and be more than the negative. Right. Yes. And it might be a situation at work. You can't just quit your job because you're like, I don't like that person and they so negative. Okay. Be the light. You go in and you set the atmosphere. So
not an easy task, but a task that is still possible. You can definitely be the light. But if you ever find yourself in a situation where your light and your energy is being dimmed, you may want to remove yourself. If that
yeah. Now, if it's a now listen, I'm not saying if it's a toxic situation, if it's toxic and it's abusive, get out.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, oh, shed the light, let them punch you in the eye and then punch you in the eye. No, get out. Save yourself and protect yourself. Now we do have to, I say this in safety, if it's somewhere where you're unsafe, or even with that job, as to where it's like it's beginning to take a toll on your health.
Yes.
Look for something else. Take yourself a leave of absence and try to find another job, or learn how to deal with the stress, so that it's not, so you're here, you're killing yourself. I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day and she's like, it's so stressful. And I said, you need to take care of you, because guess what? When you die, they're going to be like, oh, they might send flowers, they might not, but they're going to replace you. You got to take care of yourself. Go home and shut down.
Not. We need to just shed more light, not just on ourselves, but on our stories, right? Yes. Let the world understand and see that we're going through it too. We're not alone. We're not ashamed to show it. We're not ashamed to talk about it, because the shame is still there. As much as the pandemic has brought it more to light that mental health awareness is important. Right. It also became almost like just a catchphrase. if you will. Oh,
Yeah.
mental health awareness, and it's starting to lose its importance, right?
That's true.
We need to bring it back to light to say, okay, this is not just a word. These are not just words put together, but these are people's life, right?
Right.
That can be a life and death situation. And so therefore we need to make sure, and I'm advising that we should just be more compassionate about it. Be more compassionate when someone shares their story with you. Listen.
Right.
And then share yours in share yours as well. Like, why not? We all should be vulnerable with each other. There shouldn't be any reason for shame. There shouldn't be any reason for guilt of going through certain things that most times was not even your fault, right? But you still put the guilt and the blame on yourself.
Right.
It's not necessary. But at the same time, seek help. It doesn't have to be a coach. It can be a therapist. It could be just a person in general who you know that you can speak to, that's going to look out for you regardless and not spread your business everywhere, right? So speak to that person just at least to get it off your chest. And then we can kind of move on with your healing process.
Indeed. Well, that was my other question, but you've already talked about it. Mental health awareness has been overused since the pandemic.
Absolutely, it is, and I hate that it is, because it's just almost seen as a joke to some now. It's really not taken serious, and it's like hashtag mental health awareness. Okay, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Are you sharing your story, or are you still isolating yourself? Because that's what we tend to do when we have been through a traumatic experience. We feel threatened, and so therefore we isolate ourselves. Not only do we isolate ourselves, but we isolate our story. So nobody knows about us, nobody hears about us. We don't show any love, nothing. We cut ourselves off. We become numb to the world. But then you start to let go of your emotions.
Right.
You should have isolated your emotions and let everything else go. And we're doing it backwards. And so we're like still stuck in this phase of anger and still shame, and still fear. And unfortunately, the pandemic kind of elevated all of that.
Oh yeah.
All of it.
You didn't have anywhere. Look, you couldn't go out anywhere to get it off.
But at the same time, many coaches, people who are actually coaches, and coaches do coach from their experiences and so forth. They don't just put on title coach. Not everyone. Some put on the title and just try to get the money. But you have coaches who are coaching from experience. We'll talk about that another time. Unfortunately, they do it, but you can talk to people. You can talk to your coaches. You can talk to your therapist. You can talk to whoever you need to speak to just to get the story off of your chest.
Right.
You can speak to whoever you need to just online is what I meant to say. You can speak to them online. So the option of I cannot talk to someone is no longer there.
Right.
You have text. You can text a therapist now. For those who don't want to speak to someone, you can do that. You can type online. You can email. There's so many ways that you can get in contact with someone without having to say who you are, without having to put your face out there, even your voice out there. You can get help, but you have to want it. You have to first decide that you want to have that help. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
There we go. So ask for help, guys, ladies, gentlemen. You need to ask for help. You had sent me some resources, but IT wasn't here today. So I didn't know. Let me see if I'll be able to do this. If I'll be able to put this in there.
Well, if you guys know resources, put it in there. National Institute of Mental Health is a resource. Shamsha, if I'm pronouncing that right, Shamsha, is a resource. The suicide hotline is a resource. There are various resources for mental health and for the different types of abuse that people go through. Each have its own website. So there's plenty out there for you guys to get whatever help it is that you're seeking at the moment.
Look. All right. It's in the chat. It's a lot in there. It's in the chat. So it'll be in there. But yes. I thank you, ma'am, for taking the time out to come and talk to us about, some things that a lot of people don't like to talk about. This is a hard pill to swallow a lot of times, when, talking about getting through trauma, and it could have been something that's happened 20 years ago or 20 minutes ago. You just make sure that you, like she said, go and find somebody to talk to.
Yep.
And so that way that you're able to deal with things, right? And so that we can live nice, peaceful, productive lives, because that's what it's about.
Yes.
We want to be peaceful and we want to be productive. So, we always end. It would have been an inspiring moment tonight, but you got me again. So I leave you with, small steps, they lead to big things. I was scrolling through today as I usually do. And I saw this picture and it was saying that small steps are necessary. And it had two ladders. One of the ladders had a lot of different, they had the smaller steps, right? The other one, the spaces were a lot more, it was pretty impossible for the person to even reach up to grab that first step, because it was so far apart. So, I think it's important that we don't despise the small beginnings. And I'm sure I've said this before, but every small steps counts.
Yes.
When you're putting a puzzle together, you put those little pieces together and they fit and then they make this beautiful picture. When you're painting a picture, you start, with your outline and you put this color here, you put that color there, and then it becomes to a beautiful thing. We build a house one brick at a time, right? So everything is in steps, and sometimes those small steps, those are the ones that are really going to count the most. So don't leave those small steps out. We have to make sure that our foundation is very sturdy. We take our time and we do the things right, in decency and in order, right? So just make sure that you're doing something every day. You're laying one brick every day. And if you have the tools and you have the time, then two bricks every day, right? But do what's going to fit for you.
Yes.
And because, it's like when you try to do too much, you can get overwhelmed.
Yes.
And then you'll either shut down or it's going to be all wrong. And then sometimes it'll be impossible for you to even reach your goal because it's so overwhelming and it's way too much. So just take your time. Small steps, they lead to big things.
Yes. And to add to that, in terms of your small steps, don't forget to celebrate when you accomplish those small steps.
That's right.
Wait till we get to the very end for this big result, for us to have this big celebration. And most of us don't make it there. That's why some people can't get out of debt, right? They have big debt and they're trying to chip away at this big debt. They're waiting to get to the bottom, to that zero, before they can start celebrating, and they lose the momentum at the top. And not doing that, right? So celebrate your small wins as you go along your journey. I want to thank you for inviting me here again. I was like, who, me? My reaction.
Me?
Thank you for that. It allowed me to just share again with the world, like trauma is real. Trauma is very important. And we can all do our part for the entire world to heal together, not just during the holidays, right? But for the rest of the year as well. So I am very humbled by it. Thank you. I hope, Renee, if you're watching, that I did you good and that I was on my best behavior today, not like when I'm in the comment section.
Oh, if you were doing bad, you would have texted me like, shut it off.
Oh, I would have been cutting up. Absolutely. But I'm very thankful for that. And if this resonates with anyone, like, please reach out. There's all the resources there. You don't necessarily have to come to me. I don't really come on here and promote my program. I mean, people want to. I don't do it. If you want my program, find me. It's fine, right? But Yeah, find me. But I just promote you just being open and honest with yourself first, and then forgiving yourself for the things that you did not know, right? And then we can start moving on or moving forward with how do you now start your healing journey? And then after I start my journey, where do I go with it? What was blocking me? What was I blocking for my future? And where am I about to be? Who is this person that I have in my head that I want to be? And how am I going to attain the steps to get there? That's what I do. I'm here when you need me. Angie, thank you for everything.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Coach Christie. All right, Facebook, YouTube, we absolutely love you. We will be back next week. I think we do have a guest. I think, is it the 30th next week? Yes, we have a phenomenal guest next week. You will not be disappointed. This woman, whoo, huh?
Don't miss the show. Y'all better come on time.
Don't miss the show, because I'm telling you, this lady, oh yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See ya. Have a good night.
Bye.